Yes, He will.
We thank you now that we have the opportunity to stand behind this sacred desk. We pray, oh God, now that your Spirit would saturate us, that you would move in this place, that you would open our minds, open our eyes, open our ears, that you would speak to us from on high. Lord, we patiently await your word. Now, Lord, I pray that you will increase, that I will decrease. Pray that your word would come forth with power, that it will meet every need, change every heart that needs to be changed, that it would do what it was sent to do. Now I pray that the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart, let them be found acceptable in your sight. For Lord, you are my strength, and you are my Redeemer. Bread of heaven, bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. This is our prayer in his gracious and wonderful name. All of God's children said amen.
Amen.
Turn with me to book of Psalms, 139, Psalm 139. Amen. Amen. Psalm 139. I want to commence reading at verse number 19. Psalm 139. Number 19. And I want to read to you from the Christian Standard Bible, Psalm 139, beginning at verse 19. Psalm should be right near the middle of your Bible. You have the old traditional paper. Psalm 139. It's a Psalm of David, beginning at the 19th verse. David writes this. He says, God, if you would only kill the wicked, you bloodthirsty men, stay away from me, who invoke you deceitfully. Your enemies swear by you falsely. Lord, don't I hate those who hate you, and detest those who rebel against you? I hate them with extreme hatred. I consider them mine enemies. Here's what I want you to do. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my concerns. See if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the everlasting way. May the Lord bless.
Amen. Yes, Lord.
Readers, hearers of his word. Searchlight. Prayers. Searchlight. Prayers. Prayer for intimacy and closeness to God. Many have pondered the question that asks, how can I have a closer relationship to God? And what they've discovered is that a closer walk with the Lord is not always an easy task. You see, it may be an admirable goal and it reflects the heart of one who is truly reborn, but it is not an easy task to accomplish. See, we must also understand that in this life we will never be as close to God as we ought to be or as we desire to be. And the reason is that we have lingering sin in our lives. Now, it is not the deficiency on God's part that we have this problem. It is our deficiency. Because our sin remains a barrier in the midst of what we want. The sin that we have is what keeps us from full fellowship with God. It is that sin that keeps us from realizing the full glory of what God has for us. It is a fact, my brother, my sister, that most real believers desire to have that closer walk with the Master. Most of us really want to be intimate with the Lord, but the fact of the matter is what we desire and what we do to achieve that desire is vastly different and very far apart. King David allows us a peek into his life. And he allows us to see his desire for a closer walk with the Lord. You see, as he spent time in the Master's presence, as he began to be around God more, this great sense of who God was began to blossom in his mind. You see, the longer that David stayed in the presence of God, the more charged up he became about wanting to know him and wanting to be like him. In fact, the more he thought about how good the Lord was and how good God had been to him, the more he took on the traits and the characteristics of God. However, whenever you're in the spotlight of God, whenever you are in God's presence long enough, you begin to realize that maybe you are not all what you think you are. Because whenever you're in the presence of God, the longer you're there, the more you become aware of your flaws, the more you see your failings, the more you recognize how you have flubbed your life. Surely David, as he wrote about his encounter with God in this song, he began to understand his shortcomings. As he wrote about his awe with God, as he looked at the zeal that he had for God, as he wanted to become a champion and a defender of God, he began to conclude that maybe he needed some work. I think I need to tell somebody that the longer you're with God, the more you're in the presence of God, the more you begin to recognize that you ain't all you think you are. David drew nearer to the Lord. He began to understand that he was flawed because he saw his true self in the searchlight of God's love for him. And because of this, David was moved to pray. David was moved to ask God. David was moved to say to the Lord, search my heart. Try me. And I don't know about you, but whenever he started to pray this, he understood that he needed to be transparent with God. He needed God to know that everything in him wasn't what it should be. And I dare too many of us, I dare say that too many of us could stand and observe when we're in God's presence. We could stand to look at our own faults and failures. Too often we come to church and we think we're all that. We come to church and we pat ourselves on the back because we showed up. But whenever you are in the presence of God, you begin to recognize that there's something wrong with you. And so when David looked at the awesomeness of God, when David saw the glory of God, when David observed the majesty of God in his life, he was driven to his knees. He was compelled to be close to God. He wanted to have a nearness to God, and his desire for nearness to God drove him to pray, and he said to the Lord, I want you to know me.
Come on, Doc.
David asked God to search him.
Yes, sir.
I call this a searchlight prayer.
Yes,
Because he said, Lord, I want you to shine a spotlight in my life. I want you to look at me. I want you to test me out. I want you to see what's wrong with me. And then, Lord, when you find what's not right, I need you to take it away from me. I dare say a whole lot of us would be afraid to pray this.
All right now.
A whole lot of us really want to be close to God. But we don't want to do what's necessary to be close to God. And the reason why we won't pray this is because we think we're fine. We look in the mirror and we say our hair is right. We take a sniff test and we smell okay. We do the things that make us look good on the outside. But the problem is we not what we should be. I dare say most of us would be unwilling to expose ourselves to the scrutiny of God's light. But David did. David was willing to expose his life to God's searchlight. And the question is this, my brother, my sister, what is it that brought David to this pivotal point in his life? Well, David started to see that his relationship with God had been one-sided. He started to see that perhaps he had been holding back. He started thinking that maybe he hadn't let God in on all of his secrets. And I know a whole lot of us sit here today and we act like we got it together, but we got skeletons in our closet. Come on, we got secrets that we have placed so far back that we've even forgotten we have. And David knew when he understood where he was, David began to recognize that he had some secrets, but he wanted the Lord to know everything about him. David was, at first, he was content to keep his secrets to himself, but then he began to recognize that if he was going to have a close relationship with God, God needed to know everything about him. And I wonder, how many of us think we can have a lasting relationship with somebody and still withhold secrets? How many of us think that we can do all of those things, act like we're so in love, and not be transparent with the one that we love? How many of us think that we can show the person that we really concerned with or we care about, some of us, but not all of us? But here's God, and here is David. And God and David have become partners, and David says, I want the Lord to know all about me. Yes, Lord. But see, understand this, God knows you. He already knows where you are. He already knows what you need. But God is waiting on you to be willing to expose yourself to Him. And until we're willing to reveal ourselves to Him, we can never have that full intimacy with God. We can never have that closer walk that we desire. And my question is, how did David get to this place in his life? How did he get to this point where he was willing to pray a dangerous prayer and say, Lord, I want to be near you. I want to be intimate with you. Lord, I want you to look me up and down. I want you to search my heart. I want you to try me. How did David get to this point? Well, David realized he still had some hidden places. And he realized that he couldn't do it without God.
Yes, sir.
And so notice what he did. He came to God and he said, Lord, I need you to search me. Now, maybe we are hesitant to go to God in prayer like this. And I understand why, because we recognize that when we do, God will begin to reveal what's wrong with us. God will begin to show us our faults. He'll begin to show us our failings. And I mean, isn't it strange, y'all, that when we pray, we often ask God to change our circumstance, but never ask Him to change our character?
All right now.
Come on.
I mean, we always ask God, Lord, would you change him? Would you change her? Would you change my circumstance? But we never say, Lord, change me.
All right.
And David recognizes that we need to be changed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all in prayer, surrender. I mean, when we pray, isn't it us cooperating with God's will? I mean, are we saying, Lord, I want you to change me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I guess that's the reason why most of us are coming up short with prayer. Because we think prayer is calling on God as a genie in the bottle.
All right.
Lord, give me this, Lord, give me that, rather than saying, Lord, I need some help, change me.
Amen.
Look at the background of the text. David has finally made sure that the nation is together. He has fought the wars. He has defeated his enemies. The internal affairs of this nation has been set in order. And he's finally settled down from being a warrior king to being the shepherd king of Israel.
Yes.
And it was then that he realized that God didn't have a house to live in.
Come on, Doc.
And so David decided that he wanted to build God a house.
Yes.
And so he broached the subject with the prophet Nathan. And Nathan said to him, do what's in your heart. But later on, God had his say in the matter.
Yes.
God said to David, David, you're a bloody man. You can't build my house. Solomon will build the house. And even though David was disappointed, something happened in the midst of David's disappointment. David was in awe of the fact that even though God said no, God still wanted to use him. I don't know about you, but in spite of my faults and failings, it amazes me that God will let me stand here and preach. I can't hear nobody. You ought to be shouting all over the church, because it ought to be amazing to you that as bad as you are, I ain't talking about your neighbor, I'm talking about you. As bad as you are, God lets you in his house. God lets you throw your hands up in worship. God lets you call his name. God lets you pray. And God wakes you up in the morning. You ought to be shouting all over the place. There's David. Knowing how bad he was, knowing the mess that he got into, and knowing that God still says, I'm going to make your name great. In fact, David was so messed up by the fact that God, even though God wouldn't let him build a house, he was so messed up and all by the fact he couldn't sleep, so he sat down and he began to pen this song. David began to think about the goodness of God in his life. David began to realize that God was so good that he was about to go into spiritual overload.
Yes.
You ever had a spiritual overload moment where you thought about how good God's been? You ever had one of those moments where you got paralyzed by the fact that God has been so good to you? You ever had one of those times in your life when you recognize that everything you have, every place you've been, everywhere you put your foot down, it was not because of you, but because of the Lord? He's starting to think about the goodness of God. And all of a sudden, when he thinks about the goodness of God, David has a shouting moment. David has a moment when he recognizes how good God has been to him. Every now and then, I think we need to rehearse to ourselves, because we can take God for granted. We need to rehearse to ourselves how good God has been to us. And so David is so amazed that he has to capture the moment in writing. And he expresses it through his pen when he realized that he had met the omniscient and the omnipotent and the omnipresent God. He is floored by the fact that God saw him and God used him. You don't believe it? Look at what he said. He said, Lord, you've searched me and you've known me. You know when I sit down. You know when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar off. You search out my path. You know my lying down, and you are acquainted with all of my ways, even before a word is on my tongue. Behold, oh Lord, you know it all together. You hear me in from behind and before. You lay your hands upon me. He says, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high. I can't even attain. Look at what David said. David says, Lord, you are so good, I can't even fathom it. I can't even think about it. But he doesn't stop there. He says, he keeps on going. He says, I just can't believe that the Lord saw me. He said, where can I go from your spirit? And where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and fly to the uttermost part of the sea, you are there also. And you shall lead me. Your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me shall above me be night. Even the darkness is not dark enough for you. You still see me. Isn't it amazing how God knows where you are? God knows your frame. God knows who you are. God has fixed you. God has made you. David said, you are all of that. I can't do nothing but be mesmerized by the fact that you know me. Have you ever thought about that? The fact that God knows you. And when you think about what the Lord has done for you, you need to understand how David felt. David said, the Lord did all of that for me. Raised me up from little old ruddy shepherd boy and made me king. Look at where God brought you from. God brought some of us from the back alleys. God brought some of us from the cornfield and the cotton field. God brought some of us from the dirt track. God brought some of us off the sharecropper's farm. God brought us from a mighty long way. And look at where you are now. David, excited about what God has done. But then something happens to David. While he's thinking about how good God is, something changes when he thinks about the folk who are opposing him and opposing God. David begins to have an attitude change. In fact, his mood gets darker, his mind changes, and David recognizes that even though the Lord has been good to him, he's still got some enemies. He's still got some folk who oppose him. He's got some people who are thorns in his flesh, and he says, oh, if I could just pray and say, Lord, kill all of them jokers. It's in your Bible. I'm not making it up. He said, oh, if you would just slay the wicked, all of those bloody men, those folk who slander your name, those people who have malicious intent, if you would just wipe them all out. He said, you know what? I hate them just like you do, Lord. I loathe them that rise against you. I hate them, and I count them as my enemies. Now, one of the things I found out that's interesting about this prayer, David seems to have suffered a bout of bipolarism. Now watch the text, because he as he writes it, he makes three sharp turns. He starts off by talking about how good God is. Then all of a sudden he thinks about God's enemies and he gets mad. And then he suddenly changes, stops focusing on everybody else, and he looks at himself. He said, wait a minute. I ain't no better than them. I've done some stuff too. How can I have such a hatred for God's enemies when I've also been God's these men, something happens. God has a way of getting in your heart when you start thinking too much of yourself. David has what I call an epiphany. He has an aha moment. He has a point where he has to inwardly reflect. He sees himself clearly for the first time. And he said, whoa, I've been guilty of some of this stuff too. Whoa, I don't know why I'm telling the Lord to kill somebody when I'm also guilty of needing to be killed. And so David looks at himself and David says, well, rather than you taking me and doing what I am, Lord, here's what I need you to do. I need you to search me. Because maybe my motives ain't right. Search me because maybe there's something wrong with me. Now, just think about that for a minute.
Amen.
Why would he pray, search me?
All right.
I mean, doesn't the Lord already know what David is and how David is?
Amen.
But here's what I discovered. David says, search me because he recognizes there may be a little conceit in his heart.
All right.
Come on now.
Because watch this. How many of us, and let's be honest, how many of us know it's easier to see the sin of somebody else than to see
All
ours?
right. All right. All right.
I mean, how many of us, if you really stop and recognize that some things you entertained in your mind that you really wanted to do, but you didn't do it. And you heard about somebody else who did.
All right.
And then all of a sudden you get all brash and you go standing up with your chest broke out. I don't know how in the world they could have done something like that. Oh, don't act so holy. Don't act like you ain't never done it. Don't act like you ain't never had the temptation and didn't do it. And you heard somebody else do it. And then you turn around and you acted just like you were just so doggone holy. David said, wait a minute. I've had some reprehensible behavior. Wait a minute. I've done some foolish things. Wait a minute. I messed up. David said, Lord, search me. He has this self-loathing moment. He says, search me because I'm no better than the ones I'm telling you to do something to.
All right.
Now, notice what David does. David doesn't try to defend himself.
Preach, Doc, preach.
David doesn't try to fight his battle. Instead, what David does, David submits his life to prayer. He asks God to search his heart. Now watch this. I want you to see what David really is saying in the text, and I'll get out of your way. David is really saying a few things to us. He's saying to us when he says, search my heart, he says, Lord, I want you to put my life under a microscope.
All right now.
I want you to search me. In fact, I like what he really says is he says, I want you to ransack my heart. You missed that. You missed that. He says, I want you to take my life and I want you to do a thorough search. I want you to be CSI. When you look at my life, I want you to go so deep. I want you to look in every corner. I want you to search in every dark space. I want you to look everywhere something might be hidden. I want you to check out my hidden sin. I want you to examine it. I want you to find out. I want you to search it out. I want you to seek it out. I want you to sound it out. I want you to investigate it out. I want you to explore it out. I want you to put the spotlight on my life. Can you imagine? Because see, I know your opinion going to change about praying, Lord, search me. Can you imagine that David is saying to the Lord, I want you to put the spotlight on every single area of my life. Go room by room.
Yes.
I want you to look at every hidden place. I'm giving you a carte blanche to look at every place in my every secret door, every hidden closet, every nook and cranny, all those places you got stuff you think don't nobody know about. Look at it. Check out every aspect of my life. Now here's why this is a dangerous prayer. It's dangerous because when you ask God to search you, God's going to find something. And when God finds something, He's going to ask you if He can remove it. But notice what He does here. He says, not only search me, but He says, I want you to look at the panorama of my search. God didn't say, Lord, just search me. He says, but search me and know my heart. Look, that word know. That word know is, it means to experience by intimacy. It's the same word that's used in Genesis 4 and 1 when Adam knew his wife Eve. It literally means to know somebody in an intimate way. He says, Lord, I want you to know my heart. Why? Why? Because see, here's the problem. A whole lot of us have fooled ourselves thinking we got a good heart. Yeah, you fool yourself. Oh, you know, she good as gold. She just a sweet honey. Be careful. Because the people that you think are sweet, the people that you think got a good heart are wicked to the core. Jeremiah says it. He said that the heart is deceitful above all things and it is desperately wicked. Who can know it? You don't even know how bad you are. Because see, a whole lot of us say, oh, I'd never do that, and guess what? You did. You stood up big and bad as you wanted to be, talking about, honey, I'd never say that, and the first thing out of your mouth. For what you said you wasn't going to do. Oh, I wasn't going to go there, but I just couldn't help myself. You don't know how bad you are. Y'all act like y'all ain't seeing me. Y'all act just like y'all ain't seeing me. There's some folk up in here right now. You know right now that you sitting here looking at me, but you got some wicked thoughts going through your mind. There's some people sitting here looking at me right now. You know your body might be here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. There's some folk right here looking at me today. You already know that you want to cuss the person out sitting next to you. Your heart ain't right. He says, search my heart. Hello, my heart ain't right. Whenever you want to be intimate with God, you got to be transparent with God. Lord, don't just search me, but search my heart. But then he goes deeper. He says, I want you to look beyond this idea of me prompting this, doing this panoramic search. But here's what I want to do. I want to go deeper. I want to do a probing search. He says, here's what I want you to do. David said, I don't want you to just search me and search my heart. He says, I want you to test me. Watch this. Don't miss it. He said, test me or try me and know my thoughts. See, I know already, a whole lot of us ain't going to say, Lord, you... Lord, I think I keep my thoughts to myself. A whole lot of us don't want the Lord to know what we're thinking, but can I help you? You already know. David says, know my anxious thoughts. Now, here's what David is really saying. He's saying, Lord, I got some stuff that scares me. I got some stuff that really keeps me awake at night. I got some things, Lord, that reveal that I don't really trust you like I should. I need you to search me And I need you to show me what my fears are. Because, Lord, there's some stuff in me that keeps me awake at night.
All right now.
I need you to show me my fears. Because when I see what my fears are, when you really show me what's really going on the inside, then, Lord, I can turn it over
All right now.
to you. Then he goes even farther. He moves from just saying, Lord, I need you to search my anxious thoughts. But look at what else he says. I like this. He says, now here, he says, then I want you to see if there's any wicked way in me. Okay, let me help y'all out, some of y'all who don't know what he just said. He said, Lord, uncover my sins.
All right.
Lord, I got some stuff
Yes.
that I can hide from everybody else.
All right.
I can shout on Sunday. I can look holy.
Yeah.
I can preach and people won't know I got some flaws. I can wear my suit just right, comb my hair just right. I can look real good for everybody else, but I got some stuff that don't nobody know about but you and me. And David says, Lord, I want you to uncover my sin. Can you pray? Uncover my sin? Can you say, Lord, I want you to see if there's anything, you know there's something wicked in you. You know there's something in you that's messed up. There's some compromises in you. There's some stuff in you that ain't right. You know there's some cussing in you. You know there's some sinning in you. You know some stuff. But you say, I want a closer walk with the Lord. But you can't get closer to the Lord uncovers your stuff.
Yeah, doctor. Get it.
A whole lot of us, we look good at the church.
All right now. That's true.
Watch it, watch it.
Tell it, doc.
But if we followed you home,
Oh yeah.
Watch it.
I can't hear nobody.
Yeah.
If we followed you home,
Yeah.
who would be waiting on the other side of your door? I went there. If we followed you home,
Watch it.
what would be in your cabinet?
All right now. Yeah.
If we followed you home,
Go ahead,
whose number would be in your phone?
all right now.
If we followed you home,
Go ahead.
who would you be guilty of texting? If we followed you home, who would we hear you on the side cussing
All
out?
right now.
If we followed you home, who would we hear you saying sweet nothings to? I'm just asking a question.
You know, doc.
Lady says, Lord, uncover
Amen.
my sin. See, here's our problem. We've been in this mess so long, we start rationalizing. I see. Okay, you looking at me from the head. I ain't bothered nobody. Oh, you ain't never said that. Lying in church. I ain't hurt nobody with what I'm doing. It's on me. Now, what are y'all looking at me from?
Oh, doc.
Ain't nobody's business but mine.
Yes, sir.
Who are you to judge me? Just because you go to church
All right.
don't mean you that good. always trying to talk about Jesus.
All right now.
David says, Lord, I want a closer walk with you.
Oh, yeah.
And the only way I can have a closer walk with you, Lord, is I need you to uncover my sins. But then he says one last thing. He says, after you uncover my sin, I want you to do this for me. I want you to lead me
Yes.
in the way that's everlasting.
Yes.
After you have cleansed my soul, after you have washed me and made me whole, after you have taken away all of the foolishness in me, Lord, I want you to keep my feet
Yes. Yes.
in the straight and narrow way. I want you to make sure, Lord, that I don't stray,
Yes. Yes.
that I stay in the right way. I know trouble will come. I know trials will come. I know temptations will come. I know I'm going to want to slip and slide. But Lord, if you will,
Yes.
keep me
Keep me.
in the straight and the narrow way.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm going to pray that you'll keep me in the way everlasting. Keep my mind in the right place. Keep my heart in the right place. Keep my feet in the right place. Keep my hands in the right place. Keep me going in the right direction. Lord, don't let me go astray. I'm glad that God hears our prayer.
Yes.
I'm reminded as I take my seat of that old hymn that said, just a closer walk with thee.
Hey, yes, ma'am.
Granted, Jesus, if you please, daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to thee. Rule this world of toils and snares. If I falter, Lord, who cares? Who with me my burdens share? None but thee, dear Lord. None but thee. Let me close by saying, when my feeble life is over, and time for me will be no more. Guide me gently, safely over, to thy kingdom shore, to thy shore. Just a closer walk with thee. Can I get some help in here? Run to Jesus, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be. Hey, dear Lord, let it be. I'm weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, please keep me from all wrong. And I sure enough will be satisfied. As long as I walk, let me walk close to thee. David says, search me, search me, search me, Lord. And if you find anything that shouldn't be, take it out and straighten me. I want to be right. I want to be saved. Hey! I want to be. I dare you to go home. I dare you. Open up Psalm 139. Pull out verses 23 and 24. I dare you. So Lord, search me. Know my heart. Try me. And find my anxious thoughts. Know me. And see if there's anything wicked in me. And then, Lord, when you find me, because I know you're going to find something. I know you're going to see it. I know you're not going to miss it. When you find it, take it out. Straight. I want to be just like you. That's a prayer from my heart today. Because I discovered that the longer I'm with Jesus, the more I start seeing who I really am. The more I start seeing, okay, how much church I go to and how long I'm in the service, there's still some stuff in me that ain't right. So I need to constantly ask God, fix me.